So I was actually just scrolling on the internet recently, and then one of the news stories that came up was about the actress that actually played Matilda. There's a movie called Matilda. Showing my age here a little bit, but there was a movie, I believe in the 90s, time period that I grew up, called Matilda. I think Matilda, I not gonna lie, I actually like the movie. I've seen it more than a few times. Some of the other, I would say, top movies in that time that I think just everybody around my age watched was probably Matilda, Little Giants, and The Sandlot. Um, I think it's one of those movies where, we didn't have on-demand TV back in the 90s. So if one of these movies happened to be on TV at the time, you watched it. And Matilda, like I said, was at least one of those three. There might be a few more, can't think of on top of my head. Um, but Matilda was one of them. And like I said, I don't know what she was in the news for. I for some reason I read it. I just kind of looked at it real quick, and I don't think it was anything interesting. But she was in the news, and then it was just kind of funny. So if I'm just kind of going back to the story, so about the movie is that she's basically this little girl. I would say maybe 5, 6, 7 years old, and she had a little bit of powers. And I never understood the movie, so to speak. Like, I don't know how she ended up with that family, but basically, her dad is played by Danny Devito in the movie, and he's a used car sales guy. And he's a really dirty used car sales guy. Probably the worst. He would actually buy cars that were not, in the greatest shape, would do something to make it just work barely, and then he would sell it at a nice margin, and then um, the car would break down soon after he sold the car. So, and then in that family, it was his dad. She had a mother. Mother wasn't, I guess, wasn't really all there. She just kind of went along with whatever the dad did. And then she had a brother. The brother was kind of like being groomed to take over the business. So overall, it wasn't like the greatest family, you could say. But Matilda, she was special. She was a sweet little girl that also had a little bit more magical powers. And then in the movie, there's a principal. The principal apparently, this lady that I want to say was from Germany or something. I'm just guessing here, but she was really kind of wacky. Just I think she took steroids to be in the Olympics and stuff. So she was kind of crazy out there. And then she had her school teacher, which was her favorite person, I guess, in the whole movie. I think the school teacher ended up adopting her. Don't quote me on that, but I feel like they ended up together because the dad ended up getting arrested for, I guess, doing the used car sale stuff. Long story short, so the dad ended up in jail, and the girl, and then I think the teacher got together, and she got to be her mom or adopted her. Anyways, that's kind of like an completely off topic story. But anyways, I actually had this client recently, and it's kind of crazy. But so I used to manage a set of houses for this client, and this is like one of the reasons, like, it's really kind of tough for you to manage your own rental properties. And let's call this client Robert Devito, like Danny DeVito in Matilda. But so I had this client, he decided to take on the management himself. And just recently, they took it in-house. I think they had enough properties where, like, hey, instead of continuing to pay a management company the management fee, they decided to have their own in-house because they were buying, I believe, a little bit more properties, and they just wanted to take it in-house and, I guess, save that cost. I think they had their in-house person do more than just manage their property. So, they use it for multiple tasks. Just recently, we actually had one of the tenants actually accidentally pay us, and then they came by and just, I think, I don't know how they know, but I think the story goes was that the person that was managing the properties ended up taking off with all the rent money. So one of the things that if you guys don't know, is that as a management company at Property Care, we're not even a cash business at all. Like, I think 95% of our rent is actually paid online via ACH or credit card. And when you, I guess, collect rent on your own, there's a few options, but I would almost say that most people who manage properties on their own collect some kind of check, unless you move to some Venmo or PayPal. But some of those options, you want to be able to prevent a tenant from paying, just in case, in the instance that you don't want to collect rent from the tenant, meaning that at some point, like, hey, you want the tenant to, move out of your property. And then if they don't, then you have an ability to actually get them out without taking rent from them. So I think I've had owners in the past where they deposited money in their bank account. That could be a big problem later, where the tenant that you no longer want in your property keeps paying you rent, and then you're trying to evict them, or they're partial paying for like partial rent that they're supposed to be paying in full. Long story short, is that it turns out, I believe, whoever was working managing the properties for this client, supposedly, there's a little bit hearsay, but I wouldn't be surprised if this happened, end up taking, running off and taking all their money, and these tenants actually had to go prove to the owners that, like, hey, they actually paid rent, because they didn't have the supporting, or they had to show that they actually paid the check to the property manager of the company, but that person ended up running off with the money. But one of the things that I always say was that I think I had this conversation in another podcast recently, was that you could have your own in-house management. However, if that person were to ever leave, then all the experience and stuff would go away with that person. And depending on how or where you're hiring, I guess you could say, is that the caliber of person that you're hiring, like, in this instance, it doesn't seem the caliber of person that this management or this company had was that great, because obviously they took off with their money, which is, I guess, another issue. So, like, you can, I don't know how much they were paying them, but maybe it wasn't enough for them to actually go off and take off the money. So long story short, there are a lot of difficulties when you're managing your own rental properties. And one of them is, if you end up getting someone to work in-house for you, there's that one problem where, like, hey, you got to put controls, coming from an accounting background, a lot of things about controls where you can't entrust someone all the way through with everything. You got to set up controls in order to make sure that they're not able to run off with your money. That was just kind of my thought of the day. Like I said, I don't know why I was able to tie together. Saw an article about Matilda, not Matilda, but like the actress that played Matilda. And then this came about, just kind of put two together. One reminded me of the other. Anyways, have a good one. And if you guys could like, comment, subscribe, that'd be great. Thank you.